My golden sister forged the will to steal the family business, but I found the evidence, and now she's lost everything. My name's Amanda, I'm 27, and I've spent my entire life as the family afterthought. You know the type? The quiet one in the corner who doesn't cause trouble, doesn't demand attention, and gets absolutely none in return. My sister, Lily, on the other hand, oh, she's the star of the show, the golden child. The Beyoncé to my Michelle, she's 30, drop-dead gorgeous, with that effortless charm that makes everyone melt, especially Dad. But let me tell you something. Living in someone else's shadow for nearly 3 decades does things to you. It plants a little seed of resentment, waters it with every ignored accomplishment, every "why can't you be more like Lily?" And now that resentment, it's a full-blown forest. So yeah, let's talk about how my perfect sister turned out to be the villain of this story. Our dad, Henry, was a self-made man, a tech wizard who turned a garage startup into a multi-million-dollar business empire. The company wasn't just his life's work, it was our future. He always said, "This is for my girls," a legacy to keep in the family. And for years, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Dad was fair, meticulous, and had always treated Lily and me equally. Or so I thought. Then Dad got sick. It started slow, just a little fatigue here, a few doctor's visits there. Before we knew it, cancer had him in a chokehold and it wasn't letting go. Watching him fade was brutal. I practically lived at the hospital, holding his hand, feeding him soup, and pretending not to notice when Lily waltzed in once a week like she was visiting a spa. "Oh, Amanda, you're so good at this caretaker stuff," she'd say with that fake smile. "I just can't handle hospitals. They're so depressing." Yeah, well, so is being invisible, but I've had years of practice. When Dad passed, I thought the worst was over. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The real horror show began at the reading of his will. Picture this. I'm sitting there, dressed in black, clutching a tissue like I'm in a soap opera, while our family lawyer drones on about Dad's assets. I was expecting a 50-50 split. It's what Dad always promised. Instead, everything, and I mean everything, went to Lily. His shares in the company, the controlling interest, the family home, me, I got a trust fund. A sad, pathetic little trust fund that might buy me a used Prius if I'm lucky. Lily's reaction was Oscar-worthy. "Oh my gosh," she gasped, clutching her pearls like she'd just heard the most shocking news of her life. I had no idea Dad felt this way. But her smirk gave her away. It wasn't just a smirk. It was the kind of smile that says, "I won, and there's nothing you can do about it." And then she had the nerve to say, "Dad trusted me to carry on his legacy." Excuse me? Trusted you? The same Lily who thought investing meant buying a new designer handbag every season? Yeah, sure, Dad. Great choice. That night, I sat in my car in the parking lot of the lawyer's office, bawling like a contestant who just got kicked off The Bachelor. But as the tears dried, something didn't sit right. Dad wasn't just fair. He was obsessed with balance. If one of us got a gift, the other got one too. If Lily got the bigger room, I got the better view. So why would he cut me out completely? It didn't make sense. And then it hit me. This wasn't Dad. This wasn't his decision. It couldn't be. Someone had messed with his will, and I had a pretty good idea who. Because let's be real, Lily didn't get to the top by playing fair. She played dirty, and I was about to find out just how dirty. I couldn't let it go. Something about Dad's sudden death and the whirlwind of decisions that followed felt too clean. It was like watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. Impressive at first, but the more you think about it, the more you realize the trick is bullshit. So I did what any semi-sane, thoroughly pissed-off daughter would do. I started digging. Step 1, visit Mr. Allen, the family lawyer. Picture this guy, a friend of the family who's been with us since forever, but somehow manages to look like a weasel in a suit. When I walked into his office, the smell of stale coffee and overpriced cologne nearly knocked me out. "Mr. Allen," I said, giving him my best "I know you're hiding something" glare. "Why would my dad change the will? It doesn't make sense." He didn't even blink. "It's what your father wanted," he replied, his voice oozing with fake sincerity. But his eyes? Oh, they were darting around the room like he was looking for the nearest exit. If guilt were a cologne, Mr. Allen was drowning in it. "Sure," I said, crossing my arms. and I'm the Queen of England." He cleared his throat, mumbling something about the complexities of estate planning. I walked out of there more convinced than ever that he was lying through his perfectly capped teeth. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I broke into Dad's study. Okay, technically it wasn't breaking in since I had a key, but let's not split hairs. The room was exactly how he'd left it. Neat, organized, and still carrying the faint scent of his cologne. For a second, I hesitated. This was Dad's sanctuary, his place of quiet and focus. But then I thought about Lily's smug face, and my hesitation evaporated. I started rifling through drawers like I was on a scavenger hunt for justice. Papers, files, notebooks, nothing seemed out of place. My hands were shaking, partly from adrenaline, partly from sheer rage. And then I found it. An old will, dated 2 years earlier. My heart stopped. This will, the real will, split the company equally between Lily and me. The house, shared, the assets, fairly divided. It was the exact opposite of the mess we'd been handed after his death. I sat there staring at it, my heart pounding in my ears. The paper felt heavy in my hands, like it was holding all the answers I needed. Why had this been changed? And more importantly, who had changed it? The next morning, I didn't waste any time. A friend of a friend hooked me up with a forensic document expert, basically someone who can sniff out a forgery faster than you can say, fraud. Her name was Vanessa, and she had that no-nonsense vibe that screamed, "Don't waste my time." Vanessa examined the will like it was a crime scene, which, let's be real, it basically was. She tilted her head, squinted at the signatures, and even smelled the paper. Yes, apparently that's a thing. "Well," she said after what felt like an eternity, "this is fake." "Excuse me?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what she was saying. "The ink doesn't match the timeline, the paper's the wrong type, and these signatures." She pointed to Dad's name. "Forged. Sloppily, I might add." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. Someone had gone out of their way to rewrite Dad's wishes, and I had a pretty good idea who. By the time I left Vanessa's office, I wasn't just angry, I was furious. Cold, calculated fury. The kind that makes you want to flip tables and scream into the void, but also keeps you laser focused. Lily had stolen everything, and she wasn't even subtle about it. She'd treated our father's death like a business opportunity, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. This wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the company. It was about betrayal. Lily had crossed a line, and if she thought I was just going to roll over and let her win, she was about to learn a very harsh lesson. Game on, Lily. Game on. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I had no intention of rushing this. First, I needed allies. I reached out to the company's board members, subtly planting seeds of doubt about Lily's sudden rise to power. Dad always wanted us to run the company together, I told them. It's strange how everything changed so quickly. Next, I staged a confrontation with Lily at a family gathering. In front of a room full of relatives, I brought up the old will, waving a copy like a flag. Her face went pale, then red. "You're pathetic, Amanda," she spat. "You can't accept that Dad trusted me more than you." But I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. Behind the scenes, I worked with a private investigator to dig deeper. Turns out Lily had more skeletons in her closet than I imagined. Shady financial dealings, secret accounts, and even bribes paid to Mr. Allen. She was sloppy, arrogant, and confident no one would ever question her. When I had all the evidence I needed, I filed a lawsuit alleging fraud and forgery. The case made waves, and the local media caught wind of it. Golden Girls' family scandal splashed across headlines. Lily tried to play the victim, but her crocodile tears only made her look more guilty. The trial was a circus. Lily's lawyer painted me as a jealous, bitter sister trying to ruin her sibling's success. But the evidence spoke louder than her lies. The forensic expert testified about the forged will, the investigator laid out Lily's financial crimes, and even Mr. Allen turned on her to save his own skin. Watching her squirm on the stand was the most satisfying moment of my life. She couldn't answer simple questions without contradicting herself, and her lies unraveled like cheap thread. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. The will was declared invalid, and Dad's estate reverted to his original intentions, equal shares for Lily and me. But it didn't end there. Lily faced criminal charges for forgery and fraud. Her reputation was in shambles, and the board of the company voted her out as CEO. When the dust settled, Lily was left with nothing. She tried to apologize, but I wasn't interested. "You made your bed, Lily," I told her coldly. "Now lie in it." Now, I run the family business alone. It's bittersweet, but I know Dad would be proud. As for Lily, last I heard, she was working at a diner, far from the world of wealth and power she once craved. Karma's a beautiful thing.